So everybody's asking, what went wrong for Joyce against Zhang? Did he come in too light? Was he jet lagged from training in America? Did all the talk of having an iron jaw and the comparisons to George Foreman go to his head? Did he get the tactics wrong? Was he distracted by bigger fights on the horizon? What was it? Why did he lose? For me, the answer is very simple. Zhang turned out to be better than most people realized. I don't think there was anything majorly wrong with Joyce. I think there was something wrong with public perception. The public somehow had it in their head that there was no one outside of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury and Usyk that could beat Joyce. And boxing fans keep doing this. They haven't learned their lesson in the heavyweight division. When AJ, Wilder and Fury were all unbeaten, there was people saying that none of them will lose to anyone outside of that trio. When AJ lost to Ruiz, they still didn't learn their lesson. They said, okay, well, maybe AJ was a hype job, but Fury and Wilder, neither one of them will lose to anyone except each other. And Fury and Wilder, of course, have been playing on that because of the current crop of top heavyweights. They only want to fight each other. They don't really want to fight anybody outside of that for the most part. But the heavyweights who are fighting people outside of that, guess what's happening? They're losing. This idea that the heavyweight division is somehow weak and shallow is a load of nonsense. We are in a golden age of heavyweight boxing, an age where it's super competitive. And I'm telling you now, if Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk were to become undisputed, then fight everybody in the top 10, top 15 for the next 3 years, either one of them is going to lose, and not necessarily to each other. They'll get turned over by some underdog. That's what's going to happen. I mean, you look at Tyson Fury, people act like this is the heavyweight version of Mayweather. And in some ways he is, in terms of the way he manages his career and manipulates public perception. But in terms of in the ring, since when was Tyson Fury impossible to hit? The guy should really have one loss on his record to John McDermott early on in his career. After that, he gets dropped by Nevin Pikage, dropped by Steve Cunningham, dropped 4 times by Deontay Wilder in 2 of their fights. Twice in the first and twice in the third fight. And Deontay Wilder can punch, yes, we know that. But he's one of the technically worst heavyweights out there. And so if one of the technically worst heavyweights out there is able to land on you and drop you 4 times in 2 fights, you're trying to tell me that no other heavyweight out there can land on Tyson Fury's chin? Are you having a laugh? Let me tell you something. Zhang is technically better than Wilder. Oh, yes, he is. And he's more or less as tall, too. Plus, he's a southpaw. And he's definitely one of the harder punchers in the heavyweight division. And I'll come on to Zhang in a separate video with regards to comparing him to Luis Ortiz, because I've seen a lot of the Deontay Wilder fans somehow are shoehorning Luis Ortiz into this Zhang Joyce conversation for some bizarre reason. But the point I'm making is the heavyweight division is full of danger men. There's 2 champions. They're both vulnerable. Alexander Usyk has never been down as a pro. Been down as an amateur, though. Artur Beterbiev decked him with a body shot. And he's like Jack in the Land of Giants. He's not going to stay unbeaten if he fights everybody. Tyson Fury's been decked a load of times. If you're a guy with foot speed, or you're a guy who's close to Tyson Fury in height, you're going to be able to hit him. And you can hurt him too. Zhang called out Tyson Fury after his win over Joyce, predictably. He obviously thinks he can beat Fury. He said there's no way that Fury will be able to take the kind of punches that Joyce took and stay on his feet. And I agree. Obviously, Tyson Fury is better defensively than Joyce. Out of the top 10 heavyweights, I don't think there's anyone worse defensively than Joyce when he boxes like that. When he boxes like he did against Dubois, I mean, it's not too bad. But even then, he's no great shakes defensively. So I get it. Zhang had an easy target in front of him. But like I just said, if a fighter who telegraphs their punches to the extent that Deontay Wilder does is still able to catch Tyson Fury and drop him just a couple fights back, there is every chance that Zhang can catch Tyson Fury and drop him as well. And this is really my main point in this video. Public perception is so off when it comes to the heavyweight landscape. And it doesn't matter how many of these so-called upsets happen, the public never seem to learn their lesson. There is nobody in the heavyweight division right now who's so head and shoulders above the rest of the division that they could fight everybody and remain unbeaten. Not going to happen. That's why the likes of Tyson Fury are avoiding that scenario. Why he's trying to pick and choose who he fights very carefully. Because he knows what I'm saying is true. Deontay Wilder's handlers know what I'm saying is true. Think about how inactive Deontay Wilder is right now. He fought Robert Helenius several months ago. Why haven't they done the Andy Ruiz fight? They could have fought already. Very simple, people. They don't want to risk Wilder against anybody other than an Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, or somebody who, let's say, the Saudis are willing to pay him an insane amount of money to fight. If it's not that, or, Francis Ngannou as well, Wilder's handlers don't want to put him in there against anyone with a pulse because they know what people like me are saying is true, that the public perception is way off when it comes to the heavyweight division. Everything is up for grabs. The only thing preventing people from seeing that reality right now is the fact that the belts are static. They're not being fought for on a regular enough basis. If they were, then you'd see titles changing hands all the time. We are in an era of boxing where promoters and fighters spend more time milking potential fights than they do actually fighting. They want to focus on one cash bonanza, get the public to think that's the only fight that matters, and avoid all other challenges. And I'm not just speaking for the heavyweight division here. This goes on in many divisions. So back to my original point with regards to why Joyce lost to Zhang. Zhang's just better than the public realized, that's all. Zhang was better than I realized going into the Hrgovic fight, because I saw Zhang struggle against Jerry Forrest. He goes into the Hrgovic fight and I'm thinking, this is going to be an easy night for Philip. And Zhang gives him absolute hell. But that wasn't the same Zhang I watched against Jerry Forrest. The Zhang I saw against Philip Hrgovic all of a sudden had fast hands. All of a sudden he's putting together these impressive combinations. All of a sudden he's a really sharp counterpuncher on the front foot. I'm recognizing the things Zhang is doing against Hrgovic. Things I didn't think he could do beforehand. I realized my perception of Zhang was wrong. I should have paid more attention to his amateur career. Obviously, I knew he fought Anthony Joshua in the 2012 Olympics, but I didn't know that he'd medaled in a previous Olympics. I didn't know that he'd medaled at the World Amateur Championships. I didn't know how accomplished he was in the amateur ranks. Far more accomplished, by the way, than someone like Luis Ortiz. And again, I'll come on to that in a separate video. But when I saw that Hrgovic fight, I was like, okay, I seriously underestimated this guy. He's much better than I thought he was. Whereas the rest of the public seemed to be saying, oh, Hrgovic is no good. He should have wiped Zhang out. It's like, did you not see what Zhang was doing in the ring? People, he was doing impressive stuff. And in the Joyce fight, even more impressive. Because while Hrgovic was able to get the better of Zhang at long range, maybe that's testament to how much better Hrgovic's boxing skills are than Joe Joyce's. Nevertheless, I still didn't expect Zhang to dominate Joyce on the outside, but that's exactly what he did. Dominated him in every department, outside, inside, mid-range, everywhere. Still got a question over his gas tank though. I'm not convinced about that, but for 6 rounds, this guy is very dangerous. And even in the second half of a fight, he might slow down a lot, but he can still come out with one of those bursts. So what was wrong with Philip Hrgovic in that Zhang fight? Was it because his dad passed away? Was it because he underestimated Zhang? Maybe that had a little bit to do with it, but more than anything, my perception of Zhang was wrong. That was the major thing. And same goes for the Joyce fight. The public perception was wrong. They didn't realize how good Zhang was. Dwyer hit the nail on the head in his pre-fight video and his prediction. He talked about Zhang's amateur credentials and what have you. And the old adage in boxing, styles make fights, never ceases to be true. Zhang's style, evidently, is just all wrong for Joe Joyce. There are fighters out there who I'm sure could beat Zhang, but if you put them in the ring against Joe Joyce, they won't do the kind of job on Joyce that Zhang did. They might still beat him, but they won't demolish him. Boxing is rock, paper, scissors. The moral of the story is, let's check our own perceptions, especially when we're dealing with fighters with amateur credentials this deep. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.